Hi students, it's Arthur, and we're going to start talking about LinkedIn today in this module video. So LinkedIn is a pretty broad subject, and it's one of the few that we have in the class that's going to be, I'm going to break it up into a couple of shorter videos just so it's a little bit easier to digest, so to speak. So with respect to the assignment, this is one of the mandatory assignments that we have in the class. I'll remind you that if you do not turn in one of the three mandatory assignments, your grade automatically cannot be higher than a D as in dog. So it's really critical that this assignment is done and done well. It's also 50 points, so it's one of the highest scored items in the group of assignments that we've got. So in order to complete the assignment, you need to go through, this is an example of the rubric here on the right side, and you need to go through that to see the points. So the only thing you really need to do after you've completed or updated your LinkedIn site is to upload to me the LinkedIn URL so that I can access it. And then I'll take a look at the site and I'll evaluate the site based on this rubric. And so you'll note that the number of connections in here is 10. That is the number of connections that we need for our summer class because it's a compressed time frame by which you'll do your LinkedIn profile and get it submitted. If this is not a summer class and you're looking at this video, then that connection requirement could be up to 20 connections for your particular requirements. So just make sure that you take a look at the different sections and the requirements and note the connections in particular. The other thing I'll mention about the connections is they can take a little while to get, particularly if you're going after the number of 20 instead of 10. But I encourage you to pick me as one of those. That'll get you at least one out of the gate. And then, although you're finding and connecting with your fellow students and kind of putting a group together to all, be members of each other's network is great. The whole purpose of this is to build your professional network. So work on it. Try to get some people that are professionals in your workspace that you're interested in with companies that you have an interest in, and try to build your professional network out that way. But of course, the number matters, so just get that done. So LinkedIn is, if you didn't know, one of the most powerful social media platforms globally, and it is the most important one for working professionals, including entrepreneurs. And some of the things that we want to be focused on kind of answers these kind of questions. So what are some of the important questions for your career development and job search? And that's kind of where these three kind of come from. How can you prove you're a strong candidate? How can you ensure that you're up to date on industry news and trends? And then who can you connect and network with that are in your space that you really need to help learn about potential jobs and potentially even lead you into job opportunities that you may not have otherwise? Well, LinkedIn can do all of these things and quite a bit more. And it's crucial for college students, particularly as they navigate the transition from academia to the professional world. And why it's beneficial, this is just a sort of a sample list of things, but you'll notice that why it's beneficial is because it opens up you to so many opportunities that you wouldn't otherwise have. You can see the statistics on the left in terms of, we'll just focus on the U.S. statistics. There's over 200 million people in the USA registered on LinkedIn. That doesn't mean they're active, of course, but they do have a profile. There are 16 million companies, and depending on the economy and the time of year and things like that, this 4.4 million was kind of a spring 2024 number, and it kind of shows you the kind of scope of the number of job postings you have access to as well. But really, why it's beneficial is going to be coming down to several categories. One of which, of course, is professional networking, and that's really where it allows students to connect with industry professionals. You can find alumni, peers, and obviously potential employers. Building a robust network can open doors to job opportunities, internships, mentorships, and the research capabilities can give you valuable industry insights. In addition to that, visibility to recruiters. So recruiters and hiring managers use LinkedIn as a primary tool for finding candidates. We obviously use job postings as well, but when we're being proactive, LinkedIn is the go-to tool for finding candidates. And a well-maintained profile increases the likelihood that you'll get noticed and considered for positions that align with your skills and interests if you have highlighted those things in your profile. Related to that is your personal branding. So LinkedIn will provide you an opportunity to showcase your skills, experiences, achievements, interests, and volunteer or organizational involvement. And this personal branding is crucial as it helps to differentiate you from other candidates and can make a compelling case for you to be considered for different jobs that a recruiter or a hiring manager may be hiring for. And of course, LinkedIn is also one of the largest and most important job search job boards that post job listings. But you can also, of course, tailor your job recommendations on the search engine and create a profile to search for certain jobs and have those jobs sent to you on a regular interval, daily or weekly, for example. And this makes your job search much more targeted and efficient. You don't have to actually go searching for it. LinkedIn will send you the jobs when they appear. And as I've talked about in another module, applying early when a job is posted is really important to increase the likelihood that you will actually get considered in an interview. And additionally, of course, the platform offers the option to apply directly for many positions, streamlining the process. So one of the things I talk about in this time is there's a kind of a fast apply or easy apply, as LinkedIn calls it. I don't recommend you use that because I do recommend that you customize your resume for jobs. And so applying for them, through the standard way of application via the job posting is preferred. But you can do it, and it's okay if you're on. But make sure you're applying for very, very similar jobs in that aspect, so that your resume is going to be targeted for those positions. The other thing it allows you to do is to do research. So you can get industry insights from industry leaders. You can join professional groups, and you can participate in discussions and posts that provide you an opportunity to learn about current trends, challenges, and opportunities within your field of interest. And this information can be invaluable during interviews and networking events when you're doing informational interviews to show potential employers that you are engaged and informed with what's going on in the current markets for these companies. Of course, this also gives you an opportunity to communicate and network and create that strong professional network, but etiquette and communication are really important. So this will allow you to learn the norms and expectations of professional communications, which will be very critical as you enter the professional workplace. And then finally, LinkedIn Learning. Learning and development is a beautiful thing that LinkedIn has. There's a tremendous number of resources and videos that you can go, courses through LinkedIn Learning. And these resources can help students acquire skills and certifications even that perhaps can enhance your employability. But ultimately what LinkedIn does for us is it helps us get found. And, we talk about LinkedIn being a resource for talent acquisition, recruiters, and absolutely this is the best way to be found by people that you want to be found by. So what's the difference between LinkedIn and a resume? How I like to characterize it is LinkedIn is sort of a three-dimensional view of you as opposed to the two-dimensional view, which is your resume. So it gives you additional space to expand on who you are and the value you create. You can show your enthusiasm and passion for the industry. You can talk about your journey. You can be creative. You can really showcase your personality and motivation in LinkedIn, which is something that's very discouraged in lots of ways because of the standard format requirement that the resume asks of us. So LinkedIn allows you to sort of spread your wings. You can even add multimedia videos to showcase your work. You can get recommendations from others in your network that can attest to the quality of your work. People like your mentor, professors, current supervisors and bosses that you have, even in part-time jobs. All of these things can really add to your, let's call it your dossier, your portfolio of who you are as a working professional and who you want to be as a working professional. And the other thing you can do is you can start to highlight your interests and get involved. So your LinkedIn profile, sort of as a summary, it allows you to create and showcase your personal brand. We really want you to think about showcasing your achievements and recognition. It'll also build your credibility if you start to post, and you can even become considered as a thought leader depending on the number of posts you make and how involved and engaged you get. And it also can create opportunities for you as a potential candidate for opportunities through the networking that you can do here, through the posting and engagement that you can very easily do on LinkedIn. And if you're an entrepreneur, you can even use it as an advertisement for your services as well. And in fact, I use that to a certain degree with my LinkedIn profile, where I am advertising for positions as a recruiter, but I also do my career coaching as well. So ultimately, what we're going to be doing is telling your story. And the LinkedIn profile requirements in the rubric really align with what is important to get you noticed. The one thing I want to talk about too as you start to build your story out is we do have some resources that are available to you in the LinkedIn module resources. And one I would really like to pay attention to for you is the LinkedIn Learning Series. So I talked about LinkedIn Learning. If you sign up with your UNCW profile, and you can access LinkedIn Learning for free, even with a free membership. This is something that normally you cannot do because LinkedIn Learning is part of the premium membership, but as a student at a university, you're able to access it. So you should be able to access this link that's shown here in yellow. And it's an excellent series of videos that shows you basically how to build a strong LinkedIn profile step by step. And a couple of those specific links I mentioned here to customize your profile URL and to set your profile to public are a couple of things that students will kind of want to focus on as you're going forward. The second one, the LinkedIn Learning Series, is a similar series of videos that covers about how to build your profile to life, bring it to life. But this one's a bit more of an advanced version, and it covers a few things that are only available in LinkedIn Premium, which is their paid service tier. It's about $40 a month. So it's a very pricey thing that doesn't offer a tremendous amount of value for students, but it is something to think about. There are also gifting of 2-month memberships. You can join LinkedIn for 1 month for free and have access to premium. But just know that if you do use one of these promotional items and then you decide not to subscribe, LinkedIn will prevent you from using the trial tools for a period of 6 months or even up to a year. So be careful when you decide to use that. I can even gift you a membership as well, but make sure that you're very, very serious about job search and you're going to use these tools extensively. Don't just use it to try it and then and then not subscribe, because you'll have to wait a period of time to use it again. So one of the things that you'll want to also make sure that you do, you can't get any benefits from LinkedIn if people can't find you. So you need to make sure that your profile is set to be visible as a public profile. There are several settings here that you want to look at, and you want to make sure that you toggle your profile updates off and on depending on where you are in your job search. You want to make sure that you can connect with everyone at this point, but you can, and LinkedIn offers a variety of levels of privacy, which we'll talk about here in a minute, that might make you inaccessible to recruiters. So coming back to the requirements, this is kind of what we're going to cover in this video and the next video. And one of the more important areas to focus on is what we call the introduction section that includes these 3 elements: the URL, your photo and banner, and your headline. Why are these things important? Well, one of these things are important, particularly the numbers 2 and 3 are important because of how you appear in searches. So let's take a look at how that comes about. So when somebody that has LinkedIn Premium does a search for candidates like I do when I'm looking for candidates for the jobs that I am doing searches for, a search will come back with results that look a little bit like this. And so you can see very clearly what is shown, and it's not much, but there's a lot of info here if you really know what to look for. First of all, of course, is the headshot. So we're looking for a good professional photo that is part of your personal brand. We want to see a photo that shows you very clearly and in a professional environment. It doesn't have to be in a suit and tie by any stretch. However, it just does need to be a nice photo of you and it needs to be framed well so that you're sort of centered in the picture. And you can see Jeremy is a little bit off center, which is okay, but we prefer something like what Joanne or Braden has, or Mason, as good examples. But you don't, again, Braden's is fine. He doesn't have a suit on, but it is a nice photo of him there. The next thing you'll notice is the headline. And the headline is an interesting thing in LinkedIn. They create a standard headline for you based on your information, but you have a lot of room here, and we'll talk more about that in the headline section. And you can notice that Joanne only has executive assistant, but in Braden's case, he's got a much longer one, as with Mason. And these are good examples of what you would want to have in your headline. The other thing it shows is location. So this will be important with respect to job search. As companies look to find you, location will be important for them. So you need to think about what location you put there. You can put your current location, which might be, of course, Wilmington if you're a student here at UNCW. But if you want a job in Atlanta, having that Wilmington show up may not be good for you. This is flexible. You can set this to wherever you want it to be. So that's something to think about when you set your profile. You want to make sure you're found by the people that you want to be found by, and that might require you to move your location to a different place. And then the last thing we'll talk about here is connections. So the first one is who you might be connected with in your network that is also connected with this person. And that's where the connection level also comes into play. So a first level connection means that you are directly related to this person, meaning that you are a connection with them. A second level connection means that that person is connected to somebody in your first level network. And then the next level is the third, or third plus, which means that they're connected further out. It's sort of degrees of separation, if you understand what I mean by that. So this is really important, because if somebody comes up here and they're a second level connection, it'll show who they are connected with that's in common with you, and you might be able to use those people to introduce you to those other folks. So let's talk about the unique URL. So why this is important is it's going to be easier to use on your resume. It's also going to take a little bit of, let's say, people are going to find it interesting then how you change that. First of all, as I said, it's going to make it much shorter on your resume than the standard URL that LinkedIn will give you. So LinkedIn's default URL that they'll assign you is going to be a mashup of your name and some random characters, making the URL quite long. However, you can change this to shorten it and even use it as a branding element. You don't have to use your name. If you want to say something like marketing guru, although that's probably taken, I would wager, but you can actually put something like that as your URL to create a little bit of a personal branding statement in there too. You do not have to use your name. It can be anything. Just make sure it's professional, of course. But I will note that when you change the link, it may impact previous connections. So what I mean by that is it won't show if you're just looking in LinkedIn, but if a recruiter, for instance, when I'm looking for these candidates, I will upload your LinkedIn profile into my applicant tracking system. If you change the URL, that essentially breaks the link. It's not a big problem, but I just wanted to let you know that if you change your URL, you may want to think about who you've connected with in the past and maybe reaching out to them just to let them know that that's happened. It's not something you absolutely need to do. Recruiters are pretty resourceful and will find you anyway, but just so you know that that could be something. And note that also here that it says 20 connections in the summer session, it's going to be 10. How to change it. There's also, I mentioned the video in the LinkedIn Learning, and there's a link in the module resources for that, but just sort of the mechanics of it is shown right here. And it's pretty easy to do. The other thing you want to do when you're in this is you want to edit your visibility, because this is in the same general area. And you want to make sure you set your profile's public visibility to on. And you're able to toggle individual sections on or off, but it's recommended that you leave all of them on when you're an active job search. And I'll show you why that is important here in the next slide. So I did a search for nCino, and this is what the example came up. So in this case, it looks very similar to what I showed you before, but in this case, you'll see the different levels of connection. So there's second and third plus, as I talked about before. But one thing you'll notice here is how people appear in some of these searches based on their privacy settings and their profile settings. So in this particular case, this young lady shows up as LinkedIn member. That means that their profile has been locked down essentially. And then you'll also notice that there's no button to connect or message to them. And so if I have LinkedIn Recruiter, which not all companies do, I might still be able to reach out to her. But as a LinkedIn Premium member, I can't connect with her unless she opens up her profile so that I can see that. And it's difficult that, so basically it means that she's not accessible to many recruiters who might otherwise reach out to her for a position. It does show the job that she's doing and what she looks like, but that's not enough information, generally speaking. If we go down to Bell Akbari here, you can see that there's no picture. This leads me to believe, and you don't want us to make assumptions. When I say us, recruiters and hiring managers, you don't want us to make assumptions. But if you don't have a picture, this leads me to believe you're probably not an active LinkedIn member. And if I'm, kind of strapped for time, I'm only going to look for people that have pictures on their profile, which gives me an indication that they're more than likely, the odds tell me that that person is probably going to be a bit more active on LinkedIn. And then finally, you'll notice that Stacy down here doesn't show her last name, Stacy R., but she's still accessible. It does make it a tiny bit harder to find them, which may be very intentional and is very likely very intentional. But at least with her profile, I'll be able to connect and message with her. I won't be able to see her full name until we're actually connected, and she'll have control over that. But just notice that we talked about the LinkedIn URL. It could be that I can actually find out Stacy's last name if she's got her LinkedIn URL with her first and last name. So that might not be the end-all and be-all in terms of her hiding herself from evil recruiters like myself. So one of the things that we focus on and how we develop what we need for your LinkedIn profile is based on something that has been historically called being a LinkedIn All-Star, and that's what this logo is for. So the reason we focus on these elements is we know that from LinkedIn research and how their algorithms work, that profile that have information and they meet all of the criteria that we're talking about within our assignment, that you'll show up higher in searches and are much more likely to be viewed by people doing searches on LinkedIn. And ultimately, we want this introduction section to be built out and look very attractive so that we get the click. We are talking about clickbait now, and we want you to be the clickbait. We want people, recruiters, hiring managers, people who are looking to network. We want them to be able to find you very easily, and that's why we focus on these elements for LinkedIn. So the headshot, let's talk about that. So as I talked about, we want it to be professional. Does not have to be in a suit and tie by any means, but it certainly needs to be professional. And we also recommend that you use the same headshot across the other platforms from a professional point of view. And you don't have to do it for Facebook and Instagram, for instance, but certainly Handshake and LinkedIn. It's just to be consistent for your branding. And the other thing we look for is for you and only you to be in the photo. A lot of people will put photos of themselves. They think it's a great photo, but maybe there's somebody's arm around their neck or something like that. That's not the worst thing you can possibly do. A bad photo is worse than no photo, as I show here. But just remember that, the picture will tell people something about you, whether you want them to or not. So it's better to be safe than sorry here. And the other thing is, of course, make sure that you set your public profile to be publicly visible, at least within LinkedIn. And the reason it's as important is because these things directly relate to and statistically are relevant in terms of how you will be interacted with on LinkedIn. It's 9 times more likely you'll get a connection request and 7 times more likely you'll get a profile view if you have a headshot in your LinkedIn profile. The next thing I want to talk about is the banner. So I talk about the photo and the banner is the area behind your photo on LinkedIn. And you can really use this to emphasize your personal brand. And I've talked about that a little bit in the branding section. But you can customize this to work well with the picture and background so that they're tied together thematically speaking. You do need to be careful about the left-hand side because that's where your photo is, and I'll show you that in a minute. because the banner size shows differently on a mobile device versus a computer. So these are 3 examples of students in their LinkedIn profile and banner pictures. You can see these are all 3 really good examples of professional photos of the students, but they're not too professional. They're not formal, if you will. And you can use LinkedIn, you can use UNCW photos as the background, as we have here for Cameron Hall and the Seahawk statue that we have at the front of the university, at least for now. And so, and then Ella's choice in the middle here, she chose to go with a little bit of a different kind of format. So, this is really an opportunity for you to showcase a little bit of your own design preferences. You can showcase a little bit of your personality and what you want to show. And depending on your major, you might want to also focus that too. And then here are some other examples. Some of these, this is a mix of students and working professionals, but it kind of gives you an idea of just to try to hopefully spark some creativity within you to show who you are and what you want to be known for. And these things will also be potentially great conversation starters, right? Riley, she's showing a picture of a beach, and that might be an interesting conversation to have, that Riley might have that, with somebody that says, what, I really love the beach. You're really lucky, Riley, to live there. Tell me what it's like to live near a beach. And that could be a conversation starter for somebody within a networking type situation, or could be come up in an interview that Riley might be having with a potential employer who's just recently reviewed their LinkedIn profile. When I talk about the pictures and being careful of the left side, this is sort of an example. Abby put together a really nice profile, but the AW is on the left side and kind of gets covered up by her picture. Now this will look a little bit different on the mobile platform, but just wanted to kind of give you an idea of why I make that comment and why you may want to take a look at this in a way that making sure that your design doesn't get covered up by your picture. So that's all I have for the first installment, if you will, for LinkedIn. I encourage you now to go ahead and move on to LinkedIn 2 and the next presentation. Thanks a lot.